Good morning, friends. Welcome again to today's episode of the Checkin In podcast. Happy Friday to you all. It's the final day of the week, final day of the podcast for this week, but I'm glad you guys are coming in. I see you guys get on in. Today is the 8th of October, 2021. My name is Binyam. This is, of course, the Checkin In podcast. Today is episode number 70. Thank you for the compliment, by the way, Taylor. I appreciate that. Uh, Episode number 70 on the Checkin In podcast. We are coasting towards our weekend, so glad we made it. So glad we made it. I'm not sure what you guys are up to this weekend, but I'm glad you're starting off today with me on this podcast. Hello, Karina. Nice to see you. Hello, Brandon. I see you as well, my friend. Today we are doing what we always do on this podcast, the three things that I hit out of the park ongoing because I don't get tired of it, because I think it's that important for all of us. These three elements that I sort of have focused on so far in this series on the podcast are, it's Friday, and Karina, safe travels today. I know this is the weekend you've been looking forward to. Taylor, I do celebrate Thanksgiving. That's coming up on Monday, so yay! Happy Thanksgiving. And I do plan to be back here again on Thanksgiving, so hopefully you'll join me then. But the three things that we focus on are awareness, kindness, and happiness. Awareness as in how aware are we of ourselves, how we're evolving as individuals. Kindness as in that we're acknowledging change over our passage of time. How can we be kind to ourselves in the process of change? Because sometimes it's difficult to extend patience. And finally, the happiness component. Let me tell you, I don't do drugs. But I am high on life because I thrive off of happiness. What does it take for us to experience ongoing happiness as we get to know ourselves, as we express kindness and patience to ourselves? How do we get to this happy place? That's what I focus on all here on the Checkin In podcast. Welcome to episode number 70. Today's question I am super excited about. What a way to end the week on this question. Today's question is as follows. Who do you hope to become in the next 12 months? In this next year, who do you plan to be? Who do you hope to become? Love this question for a variety of reasons. We're going to dive down into the question before I give my response to this question. But again, the question, who do you hope to become in the next 12 months? Let's see if we can practice those three key things, awareness, kindness, and happiness. Congratulations, buddy, on episode number 70. I know, isn't that crazy? I am really thrilled and thankful for the place that this podcast plays in my life, because I do this. You might not realize this, Brandon, but I actually do this for myself first and foremost. I do this because this is my way of caring for me, keeping myself aware of how I'm evolving and changing over time, and how I can continue to grow as a person that I want to become. And so that's why I love doing this podcast, asking these self-reflective questions. This one here has a lot more to do with the kind of goals that we're aiming. This question, who do you hope to become in the next year? I like it because it gets me thinking about where I'm aiming for before I get there and what kind of things I have to do along the way. Brandon, yes, I am on Spotify, so you can check this podcast under the same name. I've got a couple other podcasts that I feature there, including Friendology. But yes, this podcast is also on Spotify, as you can also find the recording, of course, on YouTube and my Instagram too. So yes, love this question because it gets us thinking about the future before the future happens. It gets us planning for the future before the future happens. And it gets, it's under the same name, Brandon, Checkin In podcast, the Checkin In podcast. You can find it there. You can find it while searching my name, I believe, as well. And it should come up that way. So this question gets us thinking about the future. It gets us planning for the future. And it gets us into this realm of magic. And here's what I'm trying to, let me send you a link later. Okay, Brandon? I'll send you a link later, my friend. It gets us doing magic as well. And the magical element that I love, and I love this kind of expression of magic, is where you're pulling something out of non existence into existence. Basically, you're saying, who do you hope to become in the next year, in the next 12 months? Who do you hope to become? You're starting to think about things that aren't actualized yet. And then you're going to try and bring this into fulfillment by working on some things that didn't exist now, but now they're beginning to exist. And where does this existence begin? This existence, I believe, begins in our minds and in our hearts. What are the desires and expressions that we want to exude before they happen? It starts off with an imagination. We love you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. love the encouragement. Thank you, my friend. So what does it look like for us to bring into reality something that didn't exist? Isn't that what magicians do? They reach into their top hat and they pull out uh, a bunny. You're the greatest person on the planet. Thank you. I appreciate your kindness. You pull something out of the hat. It's like bunny, and people are like, "How did you do that?" You take a handkerchief and you make it transform into a bird, and you're like, "How did I do that?" That's like magic. That's like sleight of hand. But this kind of magic is amazing because you're actually pulling something out of nothing. 8 a.m. for me. It's early here. Amazing. You're an hour behind me. I'm guessing you must be in BC. Is that right? Yep. So, yeah, how can we actualize these magical expressions in our life so that we can look back and say, that was amazing, but that only started not because it was by accident, but because we were looking forward into the future and saying, here's what I value, here's what I want to see happening in my life, and here's how I'm going to apply myself to it. That is why I'm so thrilled that you guys are here on this podcast, listening in. About to go work out. Glad I stopped by. Me too, Tate, for real. How are you? So, along those lines, I'm thrilled that you're here because as we spend time together thinking about these things, in essence, we're becoming fellow magicians as we pull out of nothing something that didn't exist before, usually starting off with our imagination that's driven, that is fueled by our desire, by our hopes for what could be. And that's what the very question here is who do you hope to become? That hope is what is going to drive us into saying, here's what I want to see more of in my life. I love this also because it talks to the element of desire. What do you desire as you're going forward into your life? This is your life. You get to choose it. Now, for some of you, you might feel like you don't have as many choices because there are some limiting factors. Maybe you have someone who's forcing you into a corner that you don't really resonate with. Maybe you have circumstances that kind of bind you in place to fulfilling a certain course of actions that you're not really thrilled about. And yet, what are some of those parameters that you could still shift in your mindset, in your experience of living life that would enable you to, in essence, experience something greater than yourself, something that gives you that power and confidence back to be able to call your future into your own sphere of what you desire to see happening. That is amazing and worthwhile, I believe. So that's the second component I believe that is really critical as we're considering this question. Who do you hope to become? We're talking about desires here. We're talking about things that makes one really excited, right? I hope to be like you, a great person, loving everyone. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. My goodness, the love that's coming in today is encouraging. So, along those lines, that's why I love this question, is because it gets us thinking in the future by way of doing this magical act of imagining into existence what could be and then working our way towards it. And as we're doing that, we're pursuing something that resonates and desires. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Who do you hope to become in the next 12 months? Why are those factors really important for you? A very calming voice, says Alex. I've heard that as well. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. I'm glad it is because the alternative isn't so great. Having a grating voice would be really discouraging. Who do you hope to become in the next 12 months? And why do you hope to become that kind of a person? So here is what I'm thinking. As I consider my future context, what resonates with me, what brings me greatest joy, what brings me delight, for me, it's the kind of thing that continues to build me up as a person. Let me tell you, I would love to experience riches. right? But that's external. That's like stuff that I could acquire through my work. It's experiences I could have. It could open those up as well too. It could open up more opportunities, but that's still external. For me, I'm thinking about some things. I've got three things that I'm going to share with you. That the three things that I'm thinking about have more to do with who I am as a person and how I'm evolving that way as a person. Who I am as a person and how I'm evolving. Because for me, far more than riches externally can do for me is the kind of person that I am and the way I'm able to engage with those around me. The way I'm able to think inside my own space here. This is awareness piece of knowing myself. And then secondly, applying that kindness to myself, saying, hey, in the midst of being a messy human being who's trying to figure some stuff out, I still have some wonderful things that I really appreciate and I'm resonating with that make me me. That's really important. And then secondly, how am I able to engage with those around me in such a way whereby I'm able to leave value there? I'm able to communicate along those lines of saying, hey, this is what it means for me to be able to extend myself in my own community, in my own sphere, to say, hey, I see you, I appreciate you, I acknowledge you, I value you, you are worthwhile and important to me. Good morning from Toronto. How are you? Good to see you here, my dear friend. So that's what I'm thinking of as I consider my three things that I want to share with you when I'm answering the question, who do I hope to become in the next 12 months? Can I tell you something, my friends? I've got some big plans. I've got some big things in the works as I'm going forward. I've taken up some significant risks in my own experience. I'm not driving for Uber right now, which is a very scary thing because that means there's no income coming in as I shift to this new business pursuit that I am wanting to engage in, but I'm driven by conviction because there's so much internally that I have that I want to share with people. There's so much that I have that I want to share with the world, in essence, saying, here's where I found tremendous value. Here's how I'm able to experience my level of lifestyle in this zone right here, in this sense of, hey, here's how it makes sense socially. Here's how it makes sense personally for me to see the world. I've learned some significant lessons along the way, and I love being able to share what that looks like. My new endeavor, dear Krev, it is a business. Some would say it's like a life coaching, but I'm calling myself a life recalibrator. I'm helping people recalibrate their lives. I just put out a series of videos on my Instagram and YouTube, sorry, not YouTube, my Instagram and TikTok, just kind of giving the background to that word recalibrate and why it's super important to me and how I want to help people along those lines in recalibrating their lives because I think there's a lot of people who are struggling and fumbling the way forward. Any tips on putting your best foot forward in a new job? Yes. I would say, Alex, um, one, be yourself. Be yourself in a professional way whereby you're bringing your A game to your job. Set a precedent of having high expectation of the work that you're putting out. Do like set a really high like work hard and maintain being a hard worker. Earn that reputation at your job so your employer, when they see you, can say he's dependable, he is consistent, he is always bringing value to our business. When you're doing something like this, Alex, you continue to make yourself very appealing in their eyes. You become very necessary for for the work that you're doing there. And along those lines, good to see you, Brandon. I'm happy you're still here. And along those lines, Alex, that's when you'll have more opportunities for growth, perhaps in that job context. If you want to move on to a different job, you have some amazing, stellar references, and you also become a better person because you're adding value in the community, the workplace in which you're working. That's awesome to hear. You have a great perspective on things. Thank you, Krev. I super appreciate that. I want to inspire and encourage people along their way as well. Alex, I'm glad that helped you. Dear friends, let me dive into the three things that I want to share with you about my goals. What do I hope to become in the next 12 years? Now, before I answer and give you my three things, I want to clarify something. These three things I'm about to share with you, I don't think are vacant in my life. Let me say, these things, I think there is a wonderful component of representation in which when people see me, they'll be like, "Hey, Biniam, you're already doing this. You're already there," kind of thing. And while I acknowledge that, yes, I still want to continue to hone in and get better at it. You know, when a sprinter in the 100-meter dash is preparing for the Olympics, and let's say he goes and does amazing things and breaks some world records at the Olympics. Does that mean he's done, especially if he loves it? Most probably not. If he wants to still continue to be the best that he can be, he's going to continue to try and break his own record if and stay ahead of his game so that he is still a really worthwhile competition for anyone else who wants to come and challenge him. He's going to still keep on trying to be better and better than where he was presently at. In business, when people business owners are looking for how their business is getting better, they're going to continue pushing that envelope on profit margins, and they're going to try to say, how can we continue to bring more value and up our sales revenue, and how can we continue to bring more profit into our accounts. So there's that element. So even as I share with you these three things, yes, I acknowledge that I have them in abundance in my life, and yet, and yet, I still continue to strive. I still continue to push myself forward because as I do so, when I continue to push myself forward, what happens for me personally is that I want to continue getting better. I want to push myself a little further. I want to inspire others because I'm still in the game. I don't ever, my friends, want to see myself in that space where I'm saying, finally, I've arrived. Especially since you're not driving right now, but yeah, that's exactly right. For me right now, actually, for the rest of my life, I want to stay in this mind frame where I continue to strive, I continue to push myself, I continue to work hard at what does it look like for me to get to the next level and to the next level. How can I grow in more awareness of who I am? How can I extend more kindness to myself? How can I experience more happiness as I continue to process all those varieties of emotions along the way to be an even better person? And I guess at the very heart of it all is, how can I become a better human being for me personally? How can I become a better human being? That's what I'm never going to stop striving for. People are already saying, Benim, you're the nicest person we know or we've ever met. You're the kindest person. You have the most X, Y, and Z. And yet, as I hear those, I acknowledge it and I say, thank you for that. But oh, in 2 weeks, Brandon. That's awesome. I can't wait to connect with her as well. But for me, that is an ongoing pursuit. I continue, like, I love this human experience. I love the social skills that I have. I love the way I'm able to apply myself and put myself in the ring, in the arena, to still be in the fight, as it were. And I don't think I'll ever stop striving this way. So now, let me get to the point. These three things that I am hoping to become in even greater caliber and even greater quantity as I go forward are as follows. Number one, I want to grow in generosity. Generosity is really important for me. I want to grow to be a more generous person because for me, hmm, I have received so much. I've been the recipient of so much in my life already. There have been so many people who have invested in me. Can I tell you who my number one hero in life is? She is my late mom. My mom passed away a year, almost about a year and a half ago now. Dearly missed, but she's one of the most significant influencers in my personal life. She's one that's invested so much in me. I don't think anyone will be able to invest as much in me as my mom did in such an amazing and good way. The person I am today, so much of that is because of who my mom was. She was, yeah, she is basically my hero. Honestly, like she was the kind of person I wanted to be when I grew up. And I'm mentioning her because of her generosity, how she continued to give and give and give right to the very end. And I think that was one of the things that, as my family and I continue to reflect on my mom's absence in our present context, we continue to reference how generous she was, how she gave everything. She gave up her whole life to be able to see her family doing well, her kids doing well. And so she had a significant impact in my existence and my and who I am today. So super appreciate her. She's the very beginning of a long list of people who have invested. There have been some other people by way of friendship, by way of teaching, by way of just watching them from afar and interacting with them near and close by, who have also been significant investors in my life. So many individuals and groups that I've been a part of that have invested in me. And as I reflect on all that with gratitude, so grateful for the experiences I've had, from the deep friendships to the teachers to the mentors to all those people that have been a part of my life. Really grateful for their investments. And what can I not do but give back as generously as I can? I love being generous. I used to think that the best way for me to show generosity was with money. If I didn't give money, then I wasn't being generous. But it's only in the last few years that I realized, even as I give my time, which is one of my biggest expressions of generosity, that is something significant. When I can give someone time. Hi, Julian. When I can give someone my attention, my presence, when I can give them that acknowledgement that they have my attention, that's a beautiful gift. That's something impacting in a really grand way. So I love being generous with my time. I love being generous with my time by way of sharing my experiences. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing on the podcast here. I'm sharing with you guys. And if you've been following me for any length of time, even Brandon here, for example, who's been following me for quite some time, I think, Brandon, you would say you can see a huge difference from when we first met to now. You know me so much better. You're getting to know what makes me tick, how I'm inspired or encouraged, or what kind of things I'm going through in life, my context, these kind of things. As I share my time, I'm also giving my influence, my insights, my experiences. Why do I do this? Because I've experienced so much in the 4+ decades of my existence, and I've learned so much along the way because of some significant challenges and mistakes and troubles and struggles that I've had to go through. And so one of the ways that I love to be generous is to say, hey, if I can help you get a little bit further in your own walk, then you can maybe experience something a little bit easier in your own context. And I would love nothing better than to see that happen for you. So that's one of the ways I love expressing my generosity, is by giving my time, is by giving my insights, my experiences, my thoughts, my perspectives, and also just extending myself in generosity by way of showing love, showing kindness, showing care, showing empathy, like these beautiful emotions and feelings and things that are really beneficial and invest in a really significant way in others. Love being generous that way. I love being generous with my space. So with my friends, I love having them over to my place and saying, hey, let's hang out. Let me share my life with you. That's another way that I love sharing generosity. That's my number one. Is I hope to become an even more generous individual. Like right now, I'm working on some courses and things like that I can give away for free, even as I work on things that I'm selling as well. But I want to be marked as one who is generous in the way I give of my resources. This podcast, I take time out to be able to share with you what's on my radar. This is my way of being generous with you guys and saying, here, let me extend myself so that you can benefit from this. My content that I have on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram with my mom series, my Uber rides, my other videos I make along the way, those are extensions of myself in ways that I display generosity and saying, hey guys, let me give you a little bit that hopefully will help you out. I don't get paid for those, do I? That's my way of showing generosity. So I really value that. And I want to become even more generous in the next year. Secondly, I want to become an even more humble person. I got a really sweet message on Facebook yesterday. Actually, it wasn't even a message, it's more of a post. A friend of mine, and she was saying she'd been listening to the podcast series. She was really encouraged by them, and she just wanted to share my podcast with her friends. And one of the things she said is Vinny was one of like a really humble individual sharing from his experiences. I really appreciated that. That was affirming for me to hear. Um, I I think one of the most beautiful things for me personally, when I consider beautiful things in my fellow human beings, is witnessing expressions of humility. Love it. Now, humility does not mean weakness in my economy. Humility for me is massive strength and courage and wisdom and so many beautiful things. I love genuine expressions of humility. And I want to be around humble people. I want to be around them because I want them to rub more off on me. I want to become an even more humble person, which means I'm not thinking like, let me see if I can give a good distinction here. Being humble does not mean that you think you're worthless. Not at all. I have a healthy sense of my worth. Um, I have a healthy sense of my value, and I love who I am. And yet, I can still express humility by not being overly self engrossed and trying to propagate that to others, saying, "Hey, I'm all that," when I may not be. So, humility is a beautiful expression that I really value, and I want to become a more humble person in this next year. That's really important for me. What does that look like for me? Is in being teachable. I want to be teachable. I want to listen before I speak. Some who know me really well, hello, my friend Darcy. Some who know me well would say something like, "Oh, Biniam, he likes to talk." And I do. I have no problem facilitating conversations and keeping things going. And yet, I also still want to have that accessibility where I can listen to someone and learn from them. I can be accessible to someone and they can say to me, "Hey, I've got some critical observations, or I've got some complaints to share with you." And I want to be able to receive that well and graciously saying, "Thank you for sharing that with me." I did see your news reports for sure, Brad, and they were fantastic. I can't wait to share your story with my followers on all my platforms, on my web podcast for sure. But humility is one of those things that, oh man, I can't get enough of. I think there are a few things that I would probably say I love indulging myself in. I love indulging in happiness. My goodness, I love being happy. Benny loves to talk for sure, but it's okay. You just need to listen back. I appreciate that, Darcy. So true. So true. I love experiencing happiness, and I love working towards what it looks like to watch out for those moments. I love also um, expressions of humility. Like, I don't think I can get enough of that when I see someone who's humble. I'm like, I want to learn more from you. So, humility is something that is really important to me that I want to continue to grow in, even in my experience and also in the way I extend myself to others. Finally, the third thing that I really want to become more of this year is more reflective. And for me, reflection means I am observing things that are going on around me, and um, I want to be aware by way of growing in insights. And this is where the reflective part comes. As I'm listening before I speak, as I'm trying to learn from the experiences of others, as I'm hearing their stories and their experiences, I want to be able to become more reflective in the sense that um, my intuitional skills continue to be honed in, whereby the kind of questions I'm asking are really important questions. The ways that I'm putting things together in my understanding or frame of reference, it makes sense to those I'm interacting with. And so that's another component that I really want to become much better at in this next year, is that reflective piece. My dear friends, those are the three things that I want to become more of in this next year. I want to become more generous. I want to become more generous in so many ways. Love being generous and extending myself as best as I can. Not to the point where it's unhealthy and I'm overextending myself. I want to extend myself as far as I can, but do it generously. And number two, I want to become more humble. And number three, I want to become more reflective in my personal life. That's who I want to become in the next 12 months. And I mentioned those three things by way of internal disciplines that I think are really important. But I would love to hear about your considerations. What are those things in your life that you want to experience these next 12 months? What do you hope to become in these next 12 months? For some of you, you might want to finish a certain level of academic study that you've committed yourself to. For some others of you, you might want to begin a new business like me and become a business owner and one who's successful. Others might want to experience something totally different, maybe like going on a hot air balloon ride or whatever it is, and grow in your context of being able to handle heights if you weren't able to do that before. But whatever it is, I would love to hear what is it that you're aiming for in accomplishing your goals these next 12 months. Who do you hope to become along the way? I'd love to hear it along the way. My dear friends, this has been the Checkin In podcast. Today is the final day of the work week for most of us. So I hope it's a fantastic long weekend. Here in North America, we're celebrating Thanksgiving. Actually, I should say here in Canada, because I think US might have a different day for that. But in Canada, on Monday, we're celebrating Thanksgiving Day. So take some time out this weekend and consider the things that you're super grateful for. And if people are on the radar that you're super grateful for, may I encourage you, what would it look like for you to extend yourself a little further and say, hey, I just want you to know that I super appreciate you in my life. I want you to be able to sow some amazing encouragement in someone else's life because they have been a part of yours in a significant way. That would be really cool. For me, I'm getting together with some friends tomorrow evening. Darcy, I think I'll be seeing you there as well. And so I'm really grateful for that. I'm spending time with my kids today. So super thankful for those opportunities. However, do take time out to express gratitude. That's not time wasted. That's time invested, I believe. If you'd like to get in touch with me, there's my website, BennyMasters.com, and I would love to connect with you there. I'd love to encourage you in your own context, wherever you're at. As a life recalibrator, I love helping people recalibrate. It's like pressing the back button and saying, how can we do life better? Let's live life on purpose. Love you guys. Chat with you all soon. Have a great weekend. Bye.